the Bell. Bloomberg's comprehensive cross-platform coverage of the U.S. market close starts right now.
And right now, we are 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day. Romaine Bostick alongside Katie Greifeld. We're counting you down to the closing bell. You're here to help take us beyond the bell. It's a global simulcast with Massar and Tim Stenovec. Welcome to our audiences across our Bloomberg platforms here on a Monday afternoon, Massar, where it looks like a lot of people have decided to sit this one out.
Where is everybody, right? I mean, bring on the economic data, bring on the inflation reads, bring on the retail sales numbers, bring on the retailers reporting, bring on even Fed speak, right? We need something to kind of move this market a little bit.
No Fed speak.
No Fed speak.
We love Fed speak. It gives us something to talk about. It gives us, it gives the strategists ammunition to kind of figure out where they're going.
Right, so it's year ahead outlook.
Exactly. That's important stuff. You do make a good point, though. Sort of everyone's just kind of waiting around for economic data this week, and perhaps the other earnings that we still are in earnings season. We got some big retailers reporting, Walmart on Thursday. We got Home Depot tomorrow. So there could be some catalysts out there, Katie.
We're still in earnings season because earnings season never ends. And it will be interesting to hear from some of the big retailers. Romaine and I have just been chatting about, though. We're going to get some of these retailers. We're going to get CPI, of course, tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. And we're going to parse that data to death. And whether or not we actually get a meaningful signal from it, whether that changes the conversation around December remains to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, look, when you look at sort of what the economists are projecting, we're talking, 3.3% year over year here, 0.3 on a month-to-month basis here, and that's relatively in line with where we've been now for the last couple of months. So I'm not sure if those numbers get hit right on the nose. I'm not sure it really changes the narrative at all. All right, we're getting the closing bells here in New York on this Monday afternoon here, and once again, a low-volume day leading to what is a relatively unchanged market. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is in the green on the day, but only by about 0.1%, higher by roughly 49 points and change as we wait for these numbers to settle. The S&P 500 lower by about 3 to 4 points, or about 0.1%, while the Nasdaq Composite is going to finish the day lower by roughly 30 points, or about 0.2%. And the Russell 2000 really emblematic here of just how tepid the price action was, unchanged on the day at 17,000 and change.
All right, so tepid on the price action. You look at the S&P, little changed here, lower. If you dig a little bit deeper, though, a little bit of a negative tone in terms of the individual names. 307 to the downside, losing some ground in the Monday trade. Katie, 194 to the downside. So a little bit of like I said, a negative slant, too unchanged in today's trade.
Yeah, and you take a look at some of the industry groups. There's a lot of green, a lot of red, so it all washes out to about neutral. But you take a look at what did well today, and it's the autos group. But we know a lot of that is coming from Tesla, but nonetheless, that group higher by about 3.6%. Healthcare equipment and services also having a good day. So too is energy. So those are your bright spots. You take a look at the bottom of the list. What isn't doing too well today from an industry group perspective, you have retail, real estate, you have tech hardware, and you have utilities leading losses down by about 1.3%.
All right, so let's get to some of the individual gainers. Some winning really big time on company-specific news. Boeing just finishing up the day with about a 4% gain in today's session. We know what's going on, rallying. China considering ending a long commercial freeze in what is a critical overseas market for Boeing specifically. So maybe making an offer. We'll see what happens out of those meetings with President Xi and President Biden in San Francisco on Wednesday. Then the company also getting a major jet deal, $52 billion commitment from Emirates. So that certainly gave a boost to that name. Fascinating, right? We talked about the news from Novo Nordisk when it comes to its diet drug, essentially, or really diabetes drug, but also very effective when it comes to weight loss, this new class. But at the same time, you had this whole class of companies that benefit. I'm looking at Dexcom, continuing to move higher up, another 4.6%. They make glucose monitoring devices. And then you had DaVita, which is kidney dialysis companies and centers, operates those centers. It was up about 6.5%. So what's interesting is that maybe the oversold aspect of these names, because maybe the findings from this latest drug study, if you will, that maybe potentially there isn't a ton of new news. There's more to be studied. We still have questions about insurance coverage for these very expensive drugs. So nonetheless, I thought it was interesting that these other kind of companies that have been hurt as a result of these drugs actually rallied in today's session. Sorry, I'm having a Monday brain. And then you got Tesla. You mentioned Tesla earlier, up about 4.2% in today's session. Top of the NASDAQ 100. India considering tax cuts on EV imports for up to 5 years. And then Tesla, I also saw a deal expanding its supercharger network with a major gas station operator. So this is the second major deal that they've done in a few weeks. So anyway,
a gas station operator. I've always been confused by that.
Group.
Yeah, I've always been confused as to why you don't see more of these charging stations at a gas station.
I don't. I agree. Like it would be just make sense, right? I mean, make people stop. And actually, if you've got a store, you'd probably go in and eat some more food and stuff. Like I don't know.
That's a good business idea, Romaine.
Maybe starting to come.
We'll get cracking on the business plan after this. I guess I don't know why that isn't a thing though. Actually,
who cut Tim into this deal?
Good point. We were all there when the idea happened. Okay, this is the beginning of the lawsuit.
I know this is the beginning of every founder's lawsuit.
Okay, let's go to Tyson Foods. A few notable decliners today. I did manage to find some stocks that actually moved lower than the averages. Tyson Foods shares falling 2.8% on the day today. The company did provide a weaker than expected fiscal 2024 revenue. Also, adjusted operating income forecasts reported mixed quarterly results as well. Our own BI analyst called the company's forecast, quote, conservative, though the company increased its quarterly dividend. Starbucks shares, I want to take a look at where Starbucks shares ended the day. We saw the redhead just before 3 o'clock today that unionized Starbucks baristas plan to hold their biggest strike yet this week, accusing the coffee giant of refusing to fairly negotiate at cafes that voted to organize. Shares of Starbucks falling 0.8%. So in terms of numbers here, thousands of employees at hundreds of different Starbucks will have a one-day strike this Thursday. That's according to the union Starbucks Workers United. And then finally, this is a really interesting one. Golden Heaven Group Holdings. It's a company that has amusement parks, water parks, recreation facilities in China. Nate Anderson's Hindenburg research came out today and said the company is short Golden Heaven Group. Shares fell close to 28% today. The company did not immediately respond to a Bloomberg News request for comment, which was requested outside of normal business hours. We should note that Hindenburg has gone after Block, Nikola, Adani, Icon Enterprises, among others.
Okay, that's a new one for me. Golden Heaven Group sounds like something Carol would have there. Let's check in on the yield space here. Not a whole lot exciting was happening there. We did see yields basically shift just a little bit lower here across the curve, but as you can see here, the shift relatively modest, about 3 basis points on the more Fed-sensitive 2-year yield, but only about 1 to 2 basis points on the other parts of the curve. And I was just taking a look too at just the oscillations between sort of the low intraday low on the day and the intraday high on the day, and this is actually one of the least volatile days that we've had in about a month here. And in fact, it really tracks well below the average that we've had on a year-to-date basis with regards to the point swings that we've seen on treasuries. And I guess that really is a reflection of the data that we're going to get over the next couple days. CPI data on Tuesday morning, PPI on Wednesday morning. And the one I'm looking forward to really as the official retail sales data to really get a sense here of just how much the consumer is holding up.
Yeah, a lot to parse through. And, again, maybe it won't wholesale change the narrative, but it'll be important clues as to how the consumer is faring, how this economy overall is faring. And you think about some of those most dire cut forecasts for next year. I mean, these are important components.
Well, and, we talk about, obviously, how important the consumer is to the economy. Like, at some point, you do wonder, is the household balance sheet, has it come down? They're potentially putting more on credit cards, paying higher fees on those credit cards. And then you think about the student loan repayments. Like, I am waiting for more significant signs of the consumer cracking. I feel like we see it a little bit. If you got an auto loan, that's become really expensive. So I agree with you. That retail sales number, if we start to see some real dramatic trend lines to the downside, that would be significant.
Did you see the column that Betsy Stevenson wrote? She was a former labor economist, works at the University of Michigan now, and she had a Bloomberg opinion column where she was kind of going through the various scenarios of why there's this disconnect between the relative health of the economy.
Oh, is this really like anger or something?
Yeah, and the idea that people on the ground really are still upset about the economy. Now, she said some of this is just politics, and there are a lot of people that don't really believe the nonsense that's coming out of their mouth, but there are other people, too, that are still looking at prices that are elevated. Yes, they've come down, but they're higher, still higher than what you were paying a couple of years ago.
I can't remember who said this recently, but they're like, okay, inflation has come down, but prices have not. And I was talking to a CEO about this recently. I'm like, help me understand, are your costs still higher? And I just don't understand.
But maybe it's a
why this
misconception with
still
how
is out there.
Americans understand inflation. It's not that prices are going to actually come down. It's that prices are going to accelerate at a rate that is less than they previously accelerated.
Yeah, but people don't think like that.
They don't. I think the big
that's
problem is because of gas stations. We go back to gas stations, truly, because the price of a tank of gas has remained so constant, Romaine, over the course of many people's lifetimes at the gas pump that they think, okay, well, gas prices are high now because it was 2 years ago when Russia invaded Ukraine, and then they come back. So maybe people think that's the way inflation works.
But also, just back to your point, though, about how people kind of conflate what inflation really is. And I think that was really Betsy Stevenson's point, which is that economists sort of, look at inflation and these growth rates, and that's what they focus on. But the consumers really focus on the absolute price.
Yeah.
And it makes sense, right? I mean, because that's whether you're going to a gas station or a grocery store or buying a movie ticket or concert ticket, you just look at that absolute price, and that's the thing you react to. Whether that's come down or whether the growth rate is slowed on that is almost immaterial to the average person.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of sticker shock, right? When you see the numbers, and it really impacts you.
I just bought a concert ticket the other day. It was a lot.
Who are you going to go see?
I don't even want to tell you. I'm actually chaperoning my son to some little rapper.
I actually know the.
Who is it?
Make sure he doesn't get killed while he's out there or something.
I'm sure it's actually someone really cool who I've never heard of.
I'm sure they are. They're pretty cool if you're like under the age of 20.
You're on TikTok.
But I'll be sitting a few rows back with binoculars, keeping an eye on him.
Not get killed.
I kind of want to go sit behind you, Romaine, and just watch you.
We want pictures.
crazy.
All we know is we want pictures because I've seen you move to some music, and it.
Yeah, I have my taste, but like every person, you always think the younger generation's music is absolute trash. So.
All right. Anyway, Romaine's doing some shopping. Maybe that's an indicator of like what's going on with retail sales. We'll find out.
It's forced shopping.
All right, forced shopping.
Yeah, that's taking money out of my Christmas budget for you, Carol.
Hey, wait, we got to talk about this. All right, we will continue this tomorrow, guys. That's a wrap. Our cross-platform coverage, radio, TV, YouTube, and Bloomberg Originals. We will see you again tomorrow.